Learning target for today. I'm not putting learning targets up on a board like this, all right, like they do in some classes, because I use it here. Midpoint and distance in coordinate plane. I'm going to show you something really cool. I want you to memorize these, but I want you to know there's a place here where there's a midpoint and distance formula. Look at this. The distance formula right here. Yep. I don't have the midpoint up here. I don't have that one up here, but I do have distance formula. But once you know this, you're gonna get the midpoint formula. It's actually pretty easy. Online. Got them online. You know how much I spent on these posters in this room right now that I put up? $360. Online. Well, you could probably, yeah. I got these online. I actually didn't pay for them. It came through a grant. So that's why I got them like that. All right. We're going to work on the distance formula first. And that's this formula right here. When you work with a distance, I want you to know that if you take a look, there's an x2 and an x1. There's a y2 and a y1. And here are the coordinates that they're working off of. So we're working off two separate coordinates. And you put in your x1 and y1s, x2 and y2s. But here's what I want you to notice. You don't necessarily have to remember that x2 goes before x1. You can reverse those around if you want. All right? Because when you square them, they're always going to become positive, right? All right? So with the distance formula, I can write it like this. Equals the square root of x1 minus x2 squared. As long as you keep the y's in the same order then. Okay? You can switch this around. So you can do this. You can go x1 minus, in this case, minus 2 minus 4, and then 3 minus 14. Go in that order. You don't have to go this way, all right, every time. I like doing it in order. So I'm going this x minus this x, this y minus this y. If you have to stick to what this says, that's fine. Note that up here, right here, they do it the way I'm showing it. x1 and x2, y1 then y2. So up here it does it opposite of what they show there, but it still comes up with the same answer. All right? Positive. Because you square a negative, it becomes a positive. All right? So if this happens to be negative, let's say right in here, when you square it, it's going to become positive anyway. All right? So it doesn't matter which order you have it in. Just know that you have to do the x's. Can I switch these around, do y's in front of x's? Yeah, why not? I'm just adding them, right? So I could switch this around and I could say it like this. y1 minus y2 plus x1 minus x2. Oh, that's a minus. x2. And then squared on both of these. I can switch these around. Here's the only key thing to this is whatever order you keep it in, if you go x1s to x2s, y1s to y2s, you have to keep them in that order. You can't go x1 to x2 and then backwards, or can you? Yeah, you could. Actually, you could. Why? Why would it work? It would, because you're squaring it, it's going to come up positive anyway. Just subtract your x's, subtract your y's, square them, and take the square root. This leaves it really open. You don't have to follow one way. Just subtract your y's, square them, subtract your x's, square them, and add them together. All right? This is a distance formula. Let's take a look how this works. In this case here, we're using A as -2 and 3, and B is 4 and 14. All right? It's going to be on your practice sheet. All right? This is where it's done right here. We're taking the distance formula right here. We're inserting -2 for x1, 3 for x2. Notice what happens. We're adding, right? 4 minus a -2 is really 4 plus 2, right? Which comes up to 6. So this right here ends up being 6 squared. When we put our y's in, 14 minus 3 becomes 11 squared. We square them. 36 plus 121 is 157. Would this be an acceptable answer? Yes. This would be an acceptable answer. Now, they have it down here as they went through and took the square root on the calculator. And then they kind of rounded it off and they called it units. All right? That would also, either one of these would be acceptable answers also. All right? There's nothing in here that says units. So am I requiring units to be there? No. All right? But if it was something where it was labeled centimeters, inches, yeah, feet, then I'd want that in there. So I want to know what you're talking about. All right? So distance formula, does it look real tough? Do you have the equation up there to look at if you need it? Yes. No. Because what are we doing? This was the distance formula we did here. What do we have to do next? Midpoint. We have to do the midpoint next. Just a little different. It's not really hard. Let me take a look down here. This is just explaining the steps, what you're doing as you go down. I'm not going to worry about you guys doing this. I want you to be given, if you're given these points here, I want you to be able to tell me what's the distance between those points. What is the distance between those points? I'm going to subtract, I'm going to take this one minus this one, and then this one minus this one. I'm going to square both of them, take the square root of it. That's going to give me my distance. What are you really doing? You're finding the average there, aren't you? Right? Okay. Let's get out of here. All right. This is the practice. Now we're going to work on midpoint. All right. Midpoint, guys, is nothing more than an average again. But notice on distance, we went x1 minus x2, right? That was our distance. On midpoint, we're going to go x1 plus x2. And then we're going to divide it by 2. So if I give you 2 grades, all right, you got a 70 on one test or assessment, and you got a 80 on the next assessment, what would be your average? 70 plus 80 divided by 2, right? 70 plus 80 is 150 divided by 2 is 75. That's what we're doing here. This is the average between that and then y1 plus y2 over 2 is your average of the y. Okay, so you add up the x's divided by 2, that's your midpoint x. You add up the y's, divide it by 2, that's your midpoint y. See that? That's actually a coordinate. This is your coordinate, like this, x and y. All right? Can you go? No, you can't go yet. Start? Don't you understand this yet? There's an example here of midpoint. Why did they subtract that? I don't know what they're doing here. Don't worry about that. I don't like that example. It's going to confuse you. All right. Let's take a look at what the assessment is. You guys understand this? Distance formula, midpoint. This is the last assessment for this chapter. Listen up. This is the last assessment for the chapter. So 8, I'm going to go over on Monday, section 8. I'm not giving you an assessment on there. Tuesday, we'll do practice. Wednesday, test. Or assessment. What's that? That's what I hate it when I combine words too. What's that? The twist? What do you want to know about? It's your third week. You're into your third week. We're done. We're going to be going through 8 sections. All right. We're cruising through. Let's see. What do we got here? We have got. Let's do odds. No, just call me Mr. Garvalia. Okay, do evens. Let's see. What does 7-2 have involved? Oh, that was practice. All right. Where am I? Assessment here. Was there only one assessment? No, assessment. There's only one assessment. Do you want to do odds or evens? Odds. We're doing odds. Odds it is. Odds for odd children.